The film opens up with a first-person view from a helicopter, hovering over some fields while receiving orders on a mic in Italian. We see that the pilot is a man who is undergoing flight simulation training. The pilot is flying over what seems to be digital fields, and he is being instructed on what he should do at each point. Suddenly the simulation switches off, and the person giving orders informs the pilot in training that they cannot fly like that in real life. In the next scene, we see a young woman who's putting together a homemade bomb, and we can hear a constant ticking sound in the background. Once she's done putting it together, the woman wraps the bomb in a towel and puts it in a bag as she heads out. The woman enters a city office complex and speaks to the receptionist, as we're shown a man headed into the same building with his 2 young daughters. The woman asks the receptionist if she could speak with the manager. The receptionist informs the woman that he is busy and asks if she can help instead. The woman refuses, explaining that her problem is an erotic matter. The receptionist looks taken aback by this, though enters the manager's office to inform him. He is on the phone arguing with someone. As the receptionist and the manager are distracted, the woman quietly deposits the bomb she made into a trash can in the manager's office. The man we saw earlier, who was entering the building with his 2 young daughters earlier, is standing by the elevator, and one of the young girls spots the woman exiting the building in a hurry. The woman runs to a payphone and calls the receptionist, informing her that there is an unbearably loud car alarm going off and that she should come to check it. The woman, whose name we learn is Filippo, calls a man and informs him that because of his inaction, she has placed a bomb in the manager's office, and it will go off in 40 seconds. The receptionist slowly puts the phone down, but reluctantly heads out of the office to investigate the obnoxious car alarm. Filippo walks away from the building, where unbeknownst to her, the bomb has been taken out of the manager's office by a cleaner, and is now in an elevator with a man and his 2 young daughters. The bomb goes off with a powerful explosion that destroys the elevator doors as they shut. In the evening, Filippo is forcibly woken up and taken by men in masks, armed with assault rifles. Filippo is led from a jail cell into an interrogation room by prison guards, who have placed in her handcuffs. Once in the room, she is asked by a man in a gray suit her name, and Filippo replies that her name is Filippo Packard, in English. The man is surprised that Filippo is speaking in English and not Italian, but Filippo informs him that she is English, and that she has the right to testify in her native tongue. However, this doesn't sit well with another man in the room, who is an inspector overseeing Filippo's case. The man takes Filippo's British passport from his colleague and slams it on the desk, demanding that Filippo speak and testify in Italian, and that he has no concern for her rights. Just then, a young man in uniform who is sat at the back of the room, recording the details of the interview on a laptop, informs the 2 interrogators that he can translate, and is qualified to do so. There is also another man in the room, who is also in uniform, though so far is silent as he stares out of the window and smokes a cigarette. The interrogation begins, and Filippo answers all the interrogators' questions without hesitation. We learn that Filippo is from Bristol and that she is a teacher. Filippo also reveals that she was in the process of getting divorced, but her husband passed away before the divorce was finalized, so she is unsure if she is actually divorced. The main interrogator leans forward, now looking very serious, and informs Filippo that the bomb she planted caused the fatalities of 4 people. Filippo is surprised to hear that there were 4 and not only one, the manager she was targeting. The interrogator explains that a father and his 2 young daughters, as well as a janitor, were hit by the blast. Filippo is devastated upon hearing this, leaning forward in the chair as the weight of what she's done hits her. She sits there, speechless, with her hand over her mouth, unable to move or utter a word. The young man in uniform stares at Filippo as she comes to terms with what she did, tears streaming down her face as she shakes uncontrollably. The interrogators ask Filippo what her intentions are, and what organization she belongs to. Filippo denies that she is part of any organization. Filippo explains that she targeted the manager as he has connections to a boss who caused her to children. Filippo ends up fainting as the interrogators are shouting at her to answer their questions. The young man in uniform, whose name is Filippo, is sent to find a doctor. One of the inspectors grows frustrated with her, and angrily splashes a glass of water on the unconscious Filippo's face. As the doctor attempts to wake Filippo up, Filippo stays by her side, holding her hand. Filippo wakes for a brief moment and asks Filippo who he is, to which he replies that he is part of the Carabinieri, a specialist Italian police force. Filippo apologizes to Filippo and then loses consciousness again, and the doctor orders him to exit the room, but before he does so, he asks if he could pull Filippo's sleeve up. Filippo asks the doctor to stop what he's doing, and her screams can be heard from outside the interrogation room. Filippo heads home, and is sitting on the stairs with his brother when his father arrives. Filippo's father sees the tense look on his son's face and asks him how his day went. Filippo doesn't reveal anything to his father. Filippo is still clearly on his mind. Later that evening, Filippo is cleaning his bedsheets in the bathroom, and his father knocks to ask him what he is doing. Filippo explains that he is cleaning his bedsheets, as he has wet the bed. His father looks concerned, commenting that his son hasn't wet the bed in years. Filippo's father asks him if anything happened at work, and Filippo admits that something did happen. he fell in love. Filippo is being interrogated again, and she informs her interrogators that her husband fell into the business and partnered with a man he studied alongside. Filippo explains that children that she has taught have perished because of this man, whom her husband partnered with. This man has sold drugs and given discounts to her husband, school children, and even the carabinieri. The interrogators inform Filippo that they received none of the letters she claims to have sent to them in regards to this, though she is adamant that she had sent them, even having copies and receipts for them. Filippo informs them that this man's name is Vendis, though they are reluctant to believe anything she has said. Later, Filippo visits a local pharmacy, where the pharmacist is happy to see that he has taken a new job, the same as his father's line of work. Filippo thanks her for the praise, then requests some diuretic pills. Once Filippo acquires the pills, he mixes all of them into one coffee, then takes all the coffee into the interrogation room. Filippo is being shown the letters and postcards the carabinieri had been sent by her, though she cannot believe that a lot of her letters are missing. Filippo demands to know who signed off on the documents, and the other man in the room, who hasn't spoken a word up until this point, and is also wearing the same carabinieri uniform as Filippo, reveals he was the one who signed off on her letters. He explains to Filippo that he doesn't care about her letters or her reasons. He wants to know about her organization, her intentions, and how she acquired the bomb in the first place. As the man is shouting demands at Filippo, the head of the prison guards, who was just sitting there drinking Filippo's drugged coffee, rushes out of the room. Just then, the lights in the room turn off and the fire alarm goes off. Filippo takes this opportunity to hand Filippo something, and the head of the prison guards comes back into the room, saying that he is responsible for the alarm, as when he was using the hand dryer, a fuse blew out. Filippo is also responsible for this, as we saw earlier, he was the one who tampered with it. The interrogation ends for the day, and Filippo is taken back to her cell. The scene cuts to the manager who was Filippo's target. He is clearly speaking to someone who has a connection to Filippo's arrest, as the voice assures him that no one will believe Filippo. The voice also advises the manager, who is revealed to be Vendis, the one that Filippo has accused of being a boss, that something has to be done to Filippo to silence her for good. Filippo is in her cell and takes out of her pocket something Filippo handed her, which is a small tape recorder. Filippo informs her that she is a teacher at his younger brother's school, and that he has told him that he likes Filippo more than any of the teachers. Filippo goes on to say that he would like to help her, and if she chooses to accept his help, to give him a recorded answer with the tape recorder, and hand it back to him during the next interrogation meeting. The next day, after Filippo's next interrogation ends, Filippo is delighted that she has chosen to accept his help, as she leaves him a recorded tape message. Over the next few days, the pair exchange messages via recorded tapes. However, unbeknownst to either of them, the carabinieri has intercepted these messages and is aware that Filippo is planning to help Filippo escape. The head of carabinieri orders all the messages to be erased, and Vendis is confused that he is going to allow Filippo and Filippo to escape. The head of the carabinieri, whose name is Major Penny, is looking for an excuse to have Filippo murdered, and an escape provides the perfect excuse. It is revealed that Major Penny is the individual that is Vendis's inside man. Filippo is in a tool shed at his home, trying to make what seems like a makeshift key or lockpick. Filippo's brother comes into the shed, looking concerned, and asks his brother if he's afraid. It seems that Filippo's brother knows what his older brother is planning to do. Filippo stops what he's doing, turns to his brother, and replies that he is indeed afraid. Later, Filippo goes to work and heads to the toilets, where he dumps a trash bag into a toilet and closes the lid. He enters the interrogation room, where Filippo is brought not long after. As soon as Filippo sits down, she informs the interrogators that she found a bag with a key and a note. Filippo stares at Filippo wide-eyed, his heart sinking as he struggles to translate what she just said. He thinks for a brief moment that Filippo is about to sell him out. Major Penny is watching Filippo hawk-eyed, though Filippo looks back at Filippo for a brief moment and carries on with her story, explaining that she found this bag at her school. Filippo carries on, explaining that the bag contained this girl's HIV results, and she had made herself meet an unfortunate end. Filippo states that last Tuesday she attended this girl's funeral, and straight after that, she went to Vendis's office with the bomb. Outside the building, Filippo's younger brother Ariel is waiting for him. Filippo begins holding her stomach, and the interrogators allow her to go to the toilet. Ariel uses a payphone to call the number of a phone inside the prison where Filippo is being held. The phone begins ringing loudly, and the guard that is keeping watch over Filippo while she's in the toilets is getting frustrated by the loud ringing, so he goes to answer it. While the guard is speaking to Ariel on the phone, Filippo changes her pants and shoes, and likely puts on what Filippo left in the bag that he placed in the toilet. The interrogators and Penny are getting frustrated at how long Filippo is taking, and they get in touch with the guard that was watching her, and he is devastated to find that Filippo has escaped. Filippo sees Filippo headed for the main gate from the window, and for some reason reveals this to his superiors, who all run from the room to try to stop her. The guards all run to the gate, and one of the guards realize that the person Filippo pointed out to be Filippo is not her, and is actually Ariel. Filippo heads for the deserted prison attic, and Filippa meets him there, while many armed guards drive away from the prison in search of Filippa, and likely Filippo too, as they have been ordered to also retrieve the translator. Filippa asks Filippo how he knew about this attic, and Filippo reveals to her that his father was the chief of the carabinieri, and that he would hide in this attic as a child when visiting his father at work. Filippa firmly states that she doesn't intend to escape punishment, as she is guilty of murdering 4 innocent people, though she cannot rest until she has finished off Vendis. Filippo sneaks into Pinny's office while he is still out, searching for him and Filippa. Filippo calls Vendis and poses as Pinny's assistant, informing him that the woman has been taken care of, and that he should come to Pinny's office, as he would like to discuss something of importance. Vendis doesn't argue and informs him he'll be right over. Filippo then takes a gun from under Pinny's desk and hands it to Filippa, fixed with a silencer. Filippa plans to assassinate Vendis today. Vendis heads over to Pinny's office. Most of the lights have been switched off as the guards are off duty. He enters the office and is surprised to see that not Pinny, but Filippa has been the one waiting for him, who now has a gun with a silencer pointed at him. Vendis quickly runs for the door, but Filippo holds it shut from the other side. Filippa asks Vendis if he remembers her, to which he replies he does, and then attempts to charge at her in a flimsy attempt at defending himself. Filippo hears gunshots come from inside the room as he holds the door shut. Filippo enters the room and sees Vendis's body laying there after being shot by Filippa. The pair head up back to the attic, where Filippo begins sobbing. The next morning, Filippo and Filippa wake up next to each other, and the two of them stare at each other awkwardly before waking up. Filippo directs Filippa to the washrooms in the attic, and as she is there, 2 cleaning ladies also enter the room and begin freshening up. Filippo is unable to alert Filippa, who ends up hiding before they can find her. Afterwards, the two of them are back in the attic, and Filippa states that 2 cleaning ladies were talking about finding Vendis's corpse, and how they'll never forget what they saw. Filippo interrupts her, stating that they will soon have to leave the attic. The pair make sure the coast is clear, and finally come down from the attic and into an internal car park within the prison. Filippo spots a van delivering milk, and as the driver is unloading the vehicle, both Filippo and Filippa sneak into the van without the driver noticing. The escapees look to get out at the driver's first stop, although the driver takes a detour, and visits what seems to be his mistress. The driver and his woman get intimate, while Filippo and Filippa peep out of the back window to see that there are prison guards patrolling around looking for them. Later, the two of them escape the milk van and end up on a train. Filippa asks Filippo where the two of them are to go, and he replies that he would like to visit the place she grew up in, England. Filippo tells her his name for the first time, and reveals to her that he was born in 1978. The two of them arrive in a rural Italian town named Montepulciano, where they head into a church. Once there, Filippa talks about all the things she feels guilty for, lying to her mother and sister, being unfaithful to her husband once and not doing everything she could to save him, and 4 people losing their lives because of her actions. Filippa even expresses guilt over Vendis, as he was defenseless when she shot him. She states that she has lost belief in many things, which include sense, justice, and life itself. Suddenly, Filippo confesses his love to Filippa, who stares at him with tears in her eyes. Filippa says in reply that she just wants the end to come soon. Filippa cuts her hair short, into a buzzcut similar to Filippo's. The two of them eat ice cream as they watch a newly married couple exit a church together, as a crowd of people surround them and pelt them with flowers. The two of them keep watching over the wedding from afar, as the uncle of the bride stands and gives her speech. Filippa states that she recognizes a woman in a black dress who is in attendance and seems close to the bride. She's an old friend of Filippa's. Filippo asks her if she trusts this friend of hers, to which Filippa replies that she does, and she heads over to try to speak to her friend. The uncle continues his speech, asking everyone to raise a glass to the new couple, and everyone breaks into song. Filippa takes advantage of everyone being distracted and approaches her friend, who is definitely surprised to see her. Filippa and her friend, Regina, head into an alley to speak in private. Regina watches her back to make sure no one spots her leaving the wedding. Before Filippa can say a word, Regina smacks her friend across the face, angrily asking her what she has done. Filippa looks at Regina as if she expected her to hit her, though Regina immediately embraces her straight after. Filippa asks her friend if she and Filippo could spend the night at her place, but Regina replies that they will come after her. Meanwhile, Filippo is using a payphone to try and get in touch with his brother. He calls Ariel's school to try speaking to him, pretending to be his father. Ariel comes to the phone, and Filippo asks him to stay calm and act as though he's speaking to their father. Filippo asks Ariel to tell their father that he wants to see him, and even reveals that he is in Montepulciano, and to meet him in the church of San Biagio. Filippo bids farewell to Ariel and hangs up. Filippo is sad on her own as she watches the newly married couple dance. She sees Filippo coming over after his call with his brother, and runs up and firmly embraces him. Soon after, Filippo's father arrives in Montepulciano, and it doesn't take him long to find his son outside the church of San Biagio. His father looks unhappy, and notes that Filippo looks terrible. Filippo doesn't respond to this, but does introduce Filippo to his father. The three of them go inside the church, and Filippo's father hands him an envelope with money, takes out a cigarette, and lights it. Filippo is surprised by this, as he never knew his father smoked. Filippo's father informs the pair that people are still looking for them, and that the city has been blocked off, though they assume the paid are still in the country, and have not yet commenced searching other areas. Though he warns them that the authorities will soon expand their search. Filippo's father invites the two to come with him, though Filippo declines, asking his father just to take him instead. Filippo is likely saying this as she doesn't want Filippo to continue to risk his life for her. Filippo's father then asks Filippo if she loves his son, as he loves her. Filippo takes her time to answer, and even briefly shakes her head, but then answers that she does love him. Filippo's father angrily asks himself why he can't do anything about the current situation, but then shakes Filippo's hand, and embraces his son. Filippo asks his father to give Ariel a hug from him, as his father begins crying. His father then pushes him away and doesn't take a second look at him, likely as he would find it hard to leave his son as a fugitive if he stayed any longer. Filippo and Filippo leave the urban area of Montepulciano and head out to the surrounding rural area, where they arrive at a large farmhouse. The two of them peep through the window of the farmhouse and see that a family, comprising of 5 people including 2 children, are in the kitchen together. This is Regina's family, and she has a concerned look on her face as she goes out to meet the two. Regina admits that she was hoping that 2 of them wouldn't come, though she is allowing them to stay in the barn at her home. Later that night, Regina brings the 2 of them food, and as they eat, Filippo expresses her concern to Filippo that the police will come soon. The 2 of them immediately agree to leave Regina's home, holding hands, and run across the field, seemingly happy. They run up a hill which has a single large tree. For the first time in their relationship, they get intimate, while the sun sets in the background and we're left watching their silhouettes. The next day, several black cars arrive at the farmhouse, and out of them exit armed soldiers wearing balaclavas. The men race into Regina's home, armed with assault rifles. They break down the front door and search the property as a helicopter hovers over the area, with the text Carabinieri written along the side of it. The sound of the helicopter wakes up both Filippo and Filippa, who are still laying on the hill next to each other. The Carabinieri drag Regina out of her home as her parents watch on in horror. Major Pinny exits the helicopter and heads for the farmhouse, where men have detained Regina and her family. The pilot of the helicopter also exits it for some reason, and as he does, Filippo and Filippa, who were lying in wait, run into the helicopter. Before the pilot can react, Filippo takes control of the helicopter and it slowly ascends. Pinny and his men watch on helplessly as the 2 fugitives gain more and more elevation. Pinny has his men fire all their guns at the ascending helicopter, though it is in vain, as the helicopter gets smaller and smaller in the sky until it isn't visible anymore.